to At the Office, Cleveland's home for sports talk that never clocks out. From the latest headlines to heated debates, we're diving into everything sports. It's your hosts, Noah and Matt.
Cleveland! Welcome into The Office, the sports show where we talk all things sports. It's your host, Noah, with my co-host, Matt, and you can join us too at The Office. Send us a comment on YouTube, Facebook, or X, or text the show at 216-250-1411. That's 216-250-1411. Having no idea what happened with the intro there. Apologize to all the viewers, all the people who are listening to the show post-wise. Thank you to our voiceover guy for saying our names right. Matt, buddy, how are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm feeling very much the way Tim's feeling, but we'll get into that in a little bit. No, I'm good. I'm excited to be here. Excited to talk Cleveland, as always.
Yeah, man. And if we're going to talk Cleveland, I think we have to get started with something you haven't got to give your 2 cents about yet. So we were talking on Wednesday because a big trade for the Guardians happened. They traded away star shortstop second baseman Andres Gimenez. Matt is one of your favorite players. Tell them the story about that jersey you're wearing.
I mean, listen, me and Noah have this awesome tradition. We've been going to opening day. I think we've had 2 in a row now, getting ready to make it 3 this coming year. It's always a fun time. First one, it's freezing cold. Me and Noah start hanging out, get going on the beverages a little bit. I'm like, I need me a jersey. Long story short, I end up in the team store downtown spending nearly $200 on a jersey. This jersey, an Andres Gimenez jersey.
Show them the back. You're allowed to get up and move around so they
can see.
In fact,
one of my favorite jerseys. I haven't done this, so I don't know how well you'll be able to see it. I think
you got to squat a little bit, buddy. It's okay.
There's that, right? And I think one of my favorite parts about it, I don't know if you were able to see the back, right? On Andres Gimenez's jerseys, he has an accent mark on his last name. For whatever reason, this jersey, bought from the official team store, does not have the accent mark. I think it's hilarious. I think it's awesome. Makes me love it even more.
Yeah, I was curious if you were going to bring that up or not, because I think it's hilarious as well. Honestly, it's not a old jersey because we don't even know who that Gimenez even is. I want to know what your thoughts are real quick, though, just on the trade in general. I know he was your favorite player, so do tell me what your thoughts are on the trade.
Obviously, like you just said, he's my favorite player. I'm sad to see him go. You never want to see one of your favorite guys leave the city. But when you look at it optics-wise, from the team standpoint, from a winning, I want to see the team win titles. It makes sense. It hurts to admit it, but it makes sense. He's a very expensive .220 bat. Granted, he's the best defensive glove in the game. You can stop all the runs in the world. You still need to score them to win games and to win titles.
That is exactly how I feel too, honestly. I was going to give you some pushback if he didn't add in that it hurt, because it does hurt. To me, we'll see. The Dolans are cheap. We'll see if they'll actually spend the money and we can go from there. But, this isn't a baseball show today, ladies and gentlemen. This is actually a Cleveland Browns focused At the Office, a Monday show. First time in a while. I feel like we really need to just settle down here for a second and get our thoughts about us. Me and Matt have been beating around the topics of, quarterbacks and what positions to fill. I want to talk about the outlook of this team going into 2025. Yes, they lost to Kansas City. We'll get to that in a little bit here. But some news broke Sunday morning via Kay Cabot, beat writer for the Cleveland Browns. Here is the post from Cleveland.com and the quote. The Browns believe that Deshaun Watson can still play at a high level and that the first 7 games of this season were not a true reflection of his ability. Moving forward, they expect him to come back next season and compete for a position. Not win, he's not the starter, but compete for a position. Matt, how do you feel about this, man?
I mean, you're not going to come out and admit it as a franchise. Like, they can't admit that they're wrong, and they can't admit that no matter what we do, like, cutting him would not help the team. We're fully committed to pay him the money we signed for. So there's really no point to not bring him back and, throw the Hail Mary out there. Maybe he's not gonna, but there's no point to at least not give him the opportunity outside of opening that roster spot up.
See, I disagree with you at this point, man. I'm upset. Fans are upset. Just to bring it up for a second, let me pull this up. Not that one, this one. There's been posts on X of Browns season ticket members canceling their tickets over this article about Watson coming back next season. Now, I know that's an overreaction. That's not a testament of the entire fan base. There's going to be plenty of season tickets there. But why can't we just cut bait on this situation? Denver did it. And they're a playoff team this year with Bo Nix. I'm not saying there's a Bo Nix in this draft that is going to put us above and beyond and back into the playoffs. I don't know what next year holds. I really don't. I don't have any clue yet. But why can't we cut bait on him?
I mean, you make good points, and I think one of the biggest ones is money talks. So ownership's going to, make that route, or they're going to make their decision, I think, based more so on money. If that is true and season tickets start dropping like crazy, which, like you also said, is an immediate overreaction and probably would not happen. I mean, the pocket notices everything first. So I just think they would be hard-pressed. They've made it so clear for this long into this Deshaun Watson experiment, if you still want to call it that they're refusing to admit that they were wrong. They're refusing to admit that Deshaun Watson is not the guy and that they got it wrong and that they need to move on. They haven't given us 1 ounce of anything that says that. I don't see why they would, all of a sudden now double back.
See, if you're talking about it in terms of this Mary Kay article, I see what you're saying. But they have also made it very abundantly clear that he is not for sure the starter next year, which is leaps and bounds different compared to what they were talking about last year when he got hurt and they were talking about him coming back and being the starting quarterback for this franchise. They have not had that same type of vernacular when it comes to this guy at quarterback. To me, and maybe this is the hope, maybe this is me hoping that they cut bait, move forward. I can see them going in a direction with this thing where they are doing this and saying this kind of stuff to save face and put the ball in Deshaun Watson's court, because he's going to end up being that 4-string safety like I was making a joke on last week's episode. And if he does that for the next 2 years in orange and brown, his NFL career might already be over as it is, but is definitely over at that point. You know what I mean, Matt?
No, you're absolutely right with that. And that would kind of put Deshaun in the spot of, you either Deshaun makes the decision to move on and ask to be released and work that, buyout avenue that's been rumored a little bit, or however that falls, But I don't see it coming from the team perspective unless it's exactly what you just said of the team's doing it all behind closed doors and kind of, saying, listen, Deshaun, if you want that, that's how it's going to go. If not, you're just going to rust away in the depths of our roster.
Yeah, I hope that's the route it's going. I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of unanswered thought processes. Hell, half the fan base wants to get rid of Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, the whole damn regime, even though they already said they're not going to do that either. There's a lot of question marks coming out of this season, considering how high we were on this team before the season. For them to be, what are they, 3-11 right now? 3-11. The worst record since Hugh Jackson in 2017. Guaranteed. No matter what happens the rest of the season, the worst record for the Cleveland Browns since 2017. I can't even fathom that. If you would have told me that in March and April when we were talking about being all excited that we got Mike Hall. And Mike Hall, shout out to Mike Hall real quick, because he had a hell of a game back off of IR. But if you would have told me that in March, April, May, that this team was going to be 3-11 and eliminated from playoffs, 2 weeks ago, I would have called you insane. I would have been up here on this show talking my shit, acting like this Cleveland Browns team was damn well good enough to make the Super Bowl. But I digress, Matt. What else are you thinking in terms of this whole situation? I know you're not a Deshaun Watson guy. I'm not trying to frame you in terms of our argument and our back and forth. I know you're playing devil's advocate a little bit. If it were up to you, at the end of the day, you cutting him or you keeping him?
I mean, if it's up to me, he's not in Cleveland a second longer. And I get it's not up to me and it never will be. And that's coming from more of a place of passion than a place of optics. But I just really don't like the dude. And the thing that, I always keep, circling back to, especially with the horrible Deshaun Watson situation we're in, is Cleveland always finds a way to Cleveland the hell out of something. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to find the worst route to take and be like, yep, that's the one. Pedal to the metal. Let's hit it.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens in terms of the quarterback position and everything else with the Cleveland Browns moving forward after this Deshaun Watson debacle. I don't know what else to call it at this point, man. Listen, we're going to go to break. When we come back from the ad break, we're going to go talk a little bit of this Kansas City Chiefs game, the future of the Browns quarterback position, some of the optics of what happened during that game, some injury news, that kind of stuff. We're going to give our opinions here at The Office when we come back from break. You're listening to At The Office, a Cleveland sports podcast. Talk to you after these commercial messages. And we are back at The Office, talking sports, hanging out, doing the Cleveland thing, having a good time. Please, please, please don't forget to subscribe. If you haven't already, hit the download button. If you're listening to the podcast version, wherever you get your podcasts from, drop us a comment, whether you're watching the live show or if you're watching after the fact. It helps us. We enjoy having the conversations with the people who listen to our show. We appreciate all of you out there. Last but not least, check out the merch at theofficecle.com. We have merch with our branding, our logos. We got this beautiful mug on here. Matt hasn't gotten his yet, but we have a mug on there. Also, shout out Fans First Sports Network for supporting us in everything we do. Buddy, let's get back into it. The Browns lose again to the Kansas City Chiefs. Nick Chubb breaks his foot. Jameis gets benched. It was a shit show of a Sunday, to say the least, in downtown Cleveland, and you had to add the bad weather on top of it. Let's start with what I feel is the biggest news out of all of this. Chubb breaking his foot. Matt, I got to ask you, do you think Nick Chubb is done in the orange and brown?
I do believe we have watched his last snaps as a Cleveland Brown. I mean, he's a free agent at the end of the season. I wouldn't be shocked if Cleveland doesn't even offer him. It just feels like historically that's the trend in the way we would do things here. If we do offer him, it'd be very close to, if not the vet minimum. And I could realistically see him getting, a little bit better than that from a team that either would use him as their number 2 or 1B, or, a team that desperately needs a running back.
See, I very much think, especially after reading that Players Tribune article that came out that he wrote about the Browns, about the city of Cleveland, that I think Nick Chubb will be back in orange and brown next year. I think he'll come back on like a 1-year vet minimum, something very close to that at the very least. Considering the injury history and, how everything has played out up until this point. I just don't see him being done here yet, but I do, unfortunately, kind of, in a way, see him being no longer the feature back in Cleveland regardless. He will be that 1B. They will draft someone. Shout out Trevion Henderson. Shout out Quidishon Judikins, because those are both of my Ohio State boys coming up in the college football playoff and will be in the second round probably for the Browns to take potentially, because this is a deep running back draft. Matt, I know we didn't talking about this on the pre-show, and I'm sorry to spring something, a little foreign on you. Genty. Do you want to see him be taken with our top pick? There was a lot of chatter about this online today. I feel strongly about this. I'm curious if you match my opinion.
I think he is a very talented back that is going to translate to the NFL very well. And I do think he was robbed of the Heisman. I know this isn't a college football show, but I am putting that out there.
That's a hot take. That's a hot take. It should have been Hunter all day, but we'll table that. Continue.
Anyway, this could be a 40-minute argument that's not even about our show right now.
Well, anyway.
However, what I think back to with him, and I know they're not, identical players in terms of, athleticism, but I see very similar skill sets out of them to like a Saquon Barkley when he was coming out of college. And as much as I love him as well, I just don't see that style of back translating to what AFC North football is. You need the Nick Chubb, the Najee Harris, the, Jerome Bettis's, the hard-hitting, lower-your-shoulder, run-through-a-brick wall type, and that's just not him.
So it's interesting to me because I do think he would translate perfectly fine to the AFC North. I don't think he's a good fit for the Browns right now because we need to shore up our offensive line. You mentioned Saquon Barkley, and I think it's hilarious that you mentioned him because I think of Saquon Barkley with the Giants compared to Saquon Barkley with the Eagles now. I don't know if we bring Genty in here, if he would be a fit, considering the holes that we have in the offense right this very second. Doing something like drafting, Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks out of Texas and LSU, respectively, one of these high-profile offensive linemen, and then taking a running back in what is the deepest of deep running back drafts in a very long time in the second round, I think makes much more sense than, reaching on a premium position like a running back for a team that has holes that need to be filled sooner rather than later. You know what I mean?
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. And speaking, go ahead, Matt. You're good. I'll.
And you see a lot of times with the NFL draft, like you look at a player like Genty, and he got so much media coverage on top of being a phenomenal football player that there's going to be that overpay. And, there's like top 5, somewhere in that range. Whereas, you could see these running backs that you mentioned go late to mid second round, even where we're going to be sitting towards the top probably. We'll have our pick of anybody else, basically.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned the two Ohio State quarterbacks, two Ohio State running backs, because of the fact that they're both solid and could be huge contributors for this Cleveland Browns team for time and time and time to come. Speaking of holes on this roster, though, there is a hole, and I kind of already said it, at the quarterback position, obviously. And the second biggest piece of news that I think came out of this Kansas City Chiefs loss was the fact that Jameis Winston threw 3 interceptions, looked absolutely horrible, and got pulled for DTR. Not pulled because of injury, not pulled because of anything other than Stefanski said, "You're out, DTR in." Matt, where do you think they're going to go with the quarterback for the rest of the season?
We're getting ready for a carnival ride known as a carousel for the rest of the season. I think we're going to see at least 4 to 5 different quarterbacks run out onto that. Not necessarily start, but we'll probably see some movement. Practice squad guys get called up. Bailey Zapp might get onto the field a little bit. You're going to see Jameis probably start another one. You're going to see DTR probably start a game or two here. You're going to see everybody.
Yeah, and that's interesting real quick. I'll bring this up just because I haven't shown the tweet yet. Kevin Stefanski today was non-committal when it came to Jameis Winston being the starting quarterback moving forward for the Cleveland Browns. He fielded a couple questions about it at the start of his presser today. So who do you think Sunday, 1 p.m. on CBS in downtown Cincinnati is going to trot out there as the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns? Because I have an answer, but I'm curious what your thought is. And Tim Lyons says the water boy is coming in. And damn it, give me Bobby Boucher. I'm ready, baby.
Give it a shot, honestly.
Who do you think's going to start, though, against Tim Lyons' beloved Bengals?
If I was a betting man, I would have to say it's going to be Jameis Winston.
Okay. Why do you say that?
I mean, he's been the guy since Deshaun went down. He's coming off of a horrible performance. It's not like DTR really hopped into the game and, went 12 for 12 and 2 touchdowns,
He also threw a pick.
Exactly. I think more than likely they're going to go back to the guy that's been at least, normally has had the peaks with the valleys versus a guy that hasn't done much in very limited opportunity this year. However, I personally wouldn't be against, letting DTR run out there for a good bit. Let's see what we have in him. I know I've said that quite a few times, but, he's shown flashes. Why not? Why not?
Yeah. So I get your thought process. I have a couple bridging thought processes off of this. First of all, typically in the NFL, when you see a coach not commit to a guy who has already been the starter in the following week, you normally see a change at the quarterback position. I think there has been some belief for some time now that they want to do what you're saying, Matt, and see what they have in DTR as they move forward to figure out the quarterback situation for 2025 and beyond. I don't think you could pull Jameis Winston at the clip that he was playing, though, without telling the locker room, oh, we're just tanking. So now that we have gotten back-to-back horrible performances from Jameis, they're now thinking about some of these moves, like you're saying, a carousel. See, maybe if Bailey Zappi could stick because he was a starter in New England for a cup of tea or whatever and threw 300 yards at First Energy, Huntington Bank Field. So there's that. The other thing I'm thinking, though, is Jameis should be the starter because he is very obviously, in my opinion, the best quarterback on this roster. He has the ability to play guys and give guys the ability to show. He has the ability to show players' abilities, right? He has the ability where he's going to throw the ball, even if it is a horrible throw, to Jerry Jeudy to see what kind of, one-on-one, pat, whatever. He has the ability to throw players and get players the ball and the opportunity to show what we have in them. So to me, starting Jameis makes sense because you want to see what you have in everyone else. I think we already know that at best, DTR is going to be a career backup. We don't know what we have in some of these receivers. Hell, we don't even know a lot about Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford, bursted out, had a hell of a screen pass catch for a ton of yards, as well as I believe it was a outside zone run was the touchdown run he had later in that game. To me, I wouldn't want to bench Jameis for the rest of the season and burn the bridge with him if he's the only option you're going to end up having next year when it's all said and done. And you get to see what some of these young guys have. You know what I mean? Or what do you think, Matt, I guess?
I mean, really, my only point to that is, who do you really have a question mark about anymore? I mean, I know there's some depth receivers that haven't really gotten onto the field that may see some more time here. But, over the last couple weeks, I think we've pretty much established Jerry Jeudy as a stud. I personally think we've seen quite a bit of Jerome Ford, enough to, kind of know what we have in him. I mean,
Yeah.
quarterback play isn't really going to affect what we see out of the O-line too much, I don't think.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, and I guess it goes both ways. I just DTR goes into this game, and I know he's not prepped up to the level that you would be as a starting quarterback, right? But I have seen much of the same of DTR. He's athletic. He has the ability to escape the pocket, get a first down, do that kind of thing. He'll throw a dart and it'll look like a great ball. He'll also underthrow, overthrow, and all around throw receivers all day and mess up a drive when he has a wide open receiver and that kind of thing. I just don't know if I 100% believe that there's anything there in DTR. I love DTR. I think he's a great personality. I love, the story and everything about him, growing up with Tillman, I believe, right? It was Tillman, him and their childhood friends, that whole thing. It's all fine and dandy. To me, I don't think the answer to anything remotely, even from bridge quarterback to franchise guy, wherever we fall for the next 2 to 3 years as we evaluate this, I don't think there's a bridge quarterback in our quarterback room. I know for sure there isn't a franchise quarterback in our quarterback locker room. So to me, it's kind of time to just overhaul the whole thing, bring 3 new faces in next season, whether that be a Sam Darnold, a guy from the draft, and like a Jacoby Brissett again or something like that, like I alluded last week. It's just where I'm at, man. I think it'll be DTR this weekend just because of Stefanski's rhetoric and dodging saying anything about Jameis, but ultimately I don't think any of it matters because the guy's not here.
I mean, you're 100% right with that. I think the season's already so far gone. There's no point to not see what we haven't already seen.
Yeah, I get it. I do. And it's tough because you don't want to think that way, right? You always want to be a competitor and all of that. But, moving forward, I just don't think the guy for the Cleveland Browns is here. I don't think the guy is going to magically appear at DTR. So why wouldn't we want to put Jameis out there and let Jerry Jeudy stat pad and have the best career year and break all of his records personally? So that way he has all the confidence for whoever is QB1 in 2025. And that's where my thought process is. But I get what you're saying too, Matt. I will digress a little bit and say, well, why wouldn't you put DTR out there and see if he can light up, what has been a pretty bad Bengals defense this year and maybe garner some confidence and move him forward into being at least the bridge guy for the next 2 years. You know what I have come to understand as we're talking through this?
What's that?
There's just no perfect answer right now. We're just kind of screwed, and it sucks, and it's deflating because we were on the highest of highs on a playoff run that shouldn't have happened last year. Here we are at 3-11, sad and depressed, with nothing good to talk about because they keep losing football games. Matt, let's wrap this show up. Are you ready to move into random thoughts and hot takes?
I think we're about ready. Yeah.
Lay it on me. What's your hot take, man?
My hot take, try to flip the script a little bit here. Maybe be a little happy on the way out. The Andres Menace move makes me really think the Dolans and the Guardians are about to make a big name move. Bring somebody big to Cleveland, maybe a superstar bat to pair with Jose, maybe a dominant arm to pitch in front of or behind Bieber this year. But I think we're going to bring in somebody here.
So that's interesting, and I'm gonna now table whatever I came up with for my hot take because I completely and adamantly disagree with you based off of the sole fact that we have yet to see that from this team ever since the Dolans have become the owners, period. They have never spent money. Even when they do these cap clearing moves that might make sense on paper because Andres Jimenez's bad is going downhill, they have never spent the money. Who are they going to spend the money on? They won't even give our own players the amount of money that they deserve, comparatively speaking, to the open market in the MLB. And I know that it's not fair because we're a small market team and big market teams will just pay $1 billion to whoever. I don't care. I will believe it when I see it, and I hope you are right. But my hot take is we traded Andres Jimenez to be cheap because there's no TV deal on the table this year. It's all through the MLB network. And you better be excited for whatever prospects are coming up, whether that be Banzana early or any of the guys ahead of Banzana. And that's my final thought and hot take. Do you have any rebuttal real quick before I go to the outro?
I mean, you kind of brought him up there, Benzana. I think we are kind of putting our cards in him with this Jimenez trade. It's kind of saying, hey, kid, get ready quick. Let's go.
Yeah, and hopefully he's ready to be ready quick, or else we're just, what are we doing? I don't know. Maybe I'm just down because the Browns depressed me, and I'm low on the Guardians because we got rid of a good player. But all things are not bad because we do have one bright spot here in Cleveland, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers, who tipped off about 20 minutes ago. Don't know what that score is. Make sure you go check the boys out. They have been playing fantastic basketball. They are the best team in the NBA. Yeah, but check us out on Wednesday because we're going to be talking some free agency. And by free agency, I mean the trade market and some of these pieces that might be moving around in the NBA come December. Ooh, I think it already passed. I think it was today, actually, is when all of the players that signed contracts in the offseason are now eligible to be traded. So we'll be talking about the free agency of trades, whatever you want to call it, on Wednesday. So make sure to check us out, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tim, that's 6 p.m. for you, just so you know. Matt, anything else you got to say to the people?
Go Cavs.
Go Cavs, go Guards, go Browns. I know it hurts right now. Yeah?
I do have one more thing to say to the people.
Go for it.
And I know it's not a big topic on the show, and we already talked about it once, but I'm going to talk about it again.
Yeah.
Go Buckeyes in the college football playoff.
I almost forgot. Can we have a moment for the uniforms for the first game? I hope they wear them all the playoffs. Make them the playoff Reds, baby. Look at the double scarlet, the red jersey on the red pants. Cleanest looking college football. No, I'm not being that Ohio State fan. It's just the damn truth, okay? Go Bucks. Screw Tennessee. Thank you for joining us at the office. Don't forget to subscribe or hit the download button if you're listening to us on whatever podcast platform you use. Check us out on all socials. You could see it above me right here at the office CLE. If you are listening, it is @the office CLE. Have a great day, everyone. And have an even better night. See you later, Cleveland.